this is Fred, and this is Jake.
We're down in New Orleans, outside Pepper Keenan's bar, Le Bon Temps Roulé. Pepper Keenan's played such bands as Down, Corrosion Conformity, and Graveyard Rodeo.
We're gonna go into his bar, and we're gonna have a little conversation about New Orleans metal. Originally formed as a hardcore outfit, Raleigh, North Carolina's Corrosion of Conformity had evolved into a metal band with the addition of New Orleans native Pepper Keenan on second guitar. The release of 1991's Blind brought a change in the band towards heavy metal and showed more southern roots with the release of the next album, Deliverance, in 1994.
So, hello.
Long time no see.
It's been a minute. So we're down here, we're doing an overview of the history of the New Orleans sound. And first question is, what is the New Orleans sound as it comes to heavy metal?
Watch this roach, dude.
Oh shit! Jesus.
Sorry. Get out of here!
Fucking giant palmetto bug.
Oh, that's a spear.
That's like my one fucking thing.
Look at the size of it. Look at him. That normally doesn't happen much here, I swear. Man,
Fuck you!
Fuck you! Well, I bought this joint from an old man. I used to hang out here all the time. And dude just asked me if I wanted to buy a fucking bar. The big deal here is I wanted to keep it a cool music place. It's not a rock and roll joint or a heavy metal joint at all. I wanted it to be a place for New Orleans musicians to have a place to go and jam. And I don't charge a cover charge. But for the most part, New Orleans is in a pretty good stride right now. I mean, you gotta figure New Orleans has been around so fucking long, and it's had yellow fever, it's had civil war, it's had fucking hurricanes, you know. But it always keeps bouncing back. I just think the spirit of the place, people are just pretty fucking hard-headed, and they enjoy life. It's one of the few places where you ask people how they're doing and shit, and you get the right answer, you know. You're not just saying it because it's small talk. They don't do that in New York, do they?
No.
Or look people in the eye and shit.
I look people in the eye. Come on now.
I'm just kidding. I like bagels, man. That's cool.
What does the New Orleans sound mean to you? Where does that sound come from, and how did you come about it?
I think the main part of the New Orleans sound is that it's loose, slippery. I think would be a key word. You know, it's not Berlin. You know, so you know, there's going to be some semblance of funkiness, whatever, greasy kind of thing going down with it that we all kind of took off with, and a lot of that came from some odd places, you know. In the early days, I was in a band called Graveyard Rodeo. We had this weird guitar thing, man. There's a couple of riffs that were just slippery and greasy, and you know, and everybody kind of ran with that kind of thing. And then Jimmy Bauer playing drums was a big part of that too, and Little Daddy from I Hate God was a big part of making it just super greasy. You know, and seeing the meters and shit like that.
Sure.
You know, huge influence on me, guitar playing wise. You know, not the tink, but the slippery pocket thing was a real big deal. And being behind the beat is something me and Jimmy used to intentionally try to overdo. You know, to be as un-metal as possible, you know, if that makes any sense. And the Mardi Gras shit and all that was a big part of it too.
And aside from everybody like getting into heavy metal or punk rock and just kind of a cloud of death and doom a bit around the city, you know.
It's an awesome place. I love growing. I'm glad I grew up here. You know, you see a person wearing a toilet seat on their fucking head when you're 9 years old during Mardi Gras, and you know, those things get burned in your brain. It doesn't bother you. You don't get fazed by it. You've seen so much shit by the time you're 18, and you really got to fuck up in this town to get in trouble. You know, which is a kind of a bad thing, because you can push it so hard when you're a kid running wild in New Orleans, man. You know, you don't come home for days when you're like 14 years old hitting the streets. I was always one of these kids that just liked to run fucking crazy, you know. Smoking dope was never anything for me, or heroin or any of that shit. I was more of the go fast, you know, keep running guy. And I never understood when that started creeping into New Orleans, because New Orleans was such a vibrant place to go out and do shit.
Sure.
People started doing hard drugs and pills and all that kind of shit and sinking into this oblivion of doing nothing. You know, when you're in a city that you can just drink on the street and go ape shit, people are just sitting in fucking some apartment. That never made any sense to me. I was the last dude home, for sure.
You were talking to people, weekend starts Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely.
there's always that vibe you feel, you know, on a Sunday or a Monday morning. You know, everybody's waking up to go to work or something, and you just feel that vibe of just depression and hatred because, you know, they've been partying since Wednesday. Usually that's when the weekend starts in New Orleans, Wednesday or Thursday, you know. You hit happy hour, go home, eat, hang out, have a po' boy, go see a band, you know, and then you end up staying out till Sunday or something. That's how it was when I was, you know, younger, or when I could handle it more, you know, but I can still handle it.
And what happened with me was the only drug I've ever really had an issue with was cocaine. There's a joke that what's at the bottom of your first beer, your coke dealer's phone number. One of the hardest things I ever did was learn to just love beer again and not worry about the coke, you know. And the right way I did that literally was to delete all the dealers out of my phone and not go out to bars anymore. Like if I was home drinking beer, it was fine. I'm way more likely to order, you know, 2 pizzas, you know, or go run to Taco Bell or something and have a food rager than I am, you know. But it was very hard for the longest time. It was like impossible. The second I tasted a beer, which was almost every day, I wanted Coke. I think that, you know, that gateway drug thing, it's true. Because, you know, I wouldn't have tried cocaine if I wouldn't have been drinking, you know, and us being from the culture that we are.
And a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, but I think drugs had a very big part on the sound that's here. Drugs and alcohol, you know, just adding to the depression and the bad vibes. But I think the music actually kind of lifts you up from actually reaching rock bottom, you know what I'm saying? To where, you know, granted, I'm no angel. You know, I've done my share of bad things in my life. But, you know, it's as long as you don't reach rock bottom, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
But you definitely, it's
a constant struggle.
Exactly.
It's an ignorant place sometimes. It make you fucking crazy.
I can imagine.
I wouldn't say it's hypocrisy, but there's a lot of, you know, redemption, and Ash Wednesday is a real big holiday around here. I'll put it that way.
Everybody wants to atone for everything.
Yeah.
Well, Catholicism's always been good for that. You're able to pay your way out of your sin.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not my cup of tea, but if it gets you to the end and makes you a better person, go for it. But
sure.
I'm not a big fan. But it's prevalent here, you know, it's part of the culture, you know. It's so ingrained here. I'm okay with it.
So how did joining C.C.A.U. come about?
I talked to Reed, you know, a couple of times, and they were looking for singers, you know, and that was a huge turn in my life. Sure. You know, I'd have just been a dirtbag punker dude trying to beat it out here, you know. Yeah. But I had the opportunity for that, and I ran with it, man. But the New Orleans part was a big part of that. The New Orleans scene, the guitar playing style that I had learned from Graveyard Rodeo came in handy when I jumped into that shit, you know. We did a record called Blind. It was just fucking crazy. When we wrote a song called Albatross, C.O.C. was so ingrained in the New York hardcore scene, playing the Sunday matinees and CBGBs and shit. We wrote Albatross, like, man, these motherfuckers are gonna kill us, man. You know? And I felt more punk rock writing that shit from the world we were in. And I felt like we were really putting our dick on the chopping block, man. That was a turning point for me when all that started happening. When I could get to the point where you were kind of pissing off your own scene, you kind of knew you were doing something right again. It made you feel alive.